And we are live on the United Public Radio Network, 107.7 FM New Orleans, and UPRN 107.7 FM New Orleans, 105.3 FM on the Gulf Coast. How cool is that? And we're streaming, UPRN streams us everywhere. Wherever podcasts live, that's where you'll find us. So we're not hard to find. To all those above me that watch over me, to all of you, my fave parapeeps on this side of the veil, welcome. This is Father Shawn's Paranormal Ministry. I'm your host, Father Shawn Whittington. I'm a ordained Catholic priest with the United States Old Catholic Church. I'm a fully professed brother with the Old Catholic Benedictines of Immaculate Mary, a team member with the Society of St. Benedict, and co-founder of GhostBegone.biz. And yes, I'm that guy on Eli Roth Presents the Legion of Exorcists on Travel Channel and Max, currently streaming everywhere if you haven't caught the show yet. And for all of you out there that continue to discover the show out there in streaming land and reaching out to me with such wonderful compliments and support for the show, I really appreciate that from the bottom of my heart. So God bless you for that. If there's anything you want to know about my wife and I and our ministry work, go to our website, www.ghost-b-gone.biz. And if you go there to visit, there's a lot of cool things to see. Both my books are there, God, Ghosts, and the Paranormal Ministry, and God, Ghosts, and the Paranormal Ministry 2. And the books are available a little less expensive at Amazon, and they also come available in audio. But if you get them off of the website, they leave my office here. I autograph them, and they arrive to you in a beautiful house blessing kit, which may come in handy. You never know. And another beautiful thing about that is if you buy them off of the website, part of the proceeds of every sale of every copy of my books goes to support stjude.org and St. Jude's Children's Research Hospital in Nevada and the ASPCA. So how cool is that? You get to help some of the neediest children on the planet and the animals too. So that's a very beautiful thing. My online course is there, Introduction to Spiritual Warfare. You can enroll there on the website, or you can reach out to me and talk to me about it to make sure it's something that really going to be helpful to you before making that type of commitment. But you can just enroll there right on the website. It's a 12-week online college level course. And it's for all you true warriors for Christ out there that want to learn how to draw your line in the sand, make a stand, circle the wagons, put up a good fight, perhaps the fight of your life against, God forbid, true evil if it ever comes calling. That's the course for you. All my students that graduate get a stunning diploma, certificate of completion, suited for framing, along with some other very special blessed items that you can only get from yours truly. And there's also a place on the website where you can make an appointment to speak with me about your spiritual issues, not paranormal, but spiritual. Keep in mind while you're there visiting the website that my wife and I don't charge for our ministry work, helping people with their paranormal issues. So if you notice the donate button and you're able to do so, click on it and send my ministry in a small donation. I promise you, it'll be appreciated from the bottom of our hearts. And trust me, we'll put it to good use. So now, we have a great show today, but you all already knew that. That's why you tuned in. Great guest. He's a fan favorite. Every time I announce he's coming on, I don't have to do any work. All of these questions I have are sent in by you guys for Karl. So you guys make my job easy. And another really cool thing about my Friday shows, I have an awesome co-host. Took me, 6-7 years? I've been doing the show since October of 2015. Took me quite a while to find a good one, and so I found her, and I wish I would have found her earlier. She's a friend. I love her. I respect her. I've known her a long time. She is the owner of Stellium Books. She's my publisher, lifelong paranormal experiencer. Please give a big, warm paranormal ministry family welcome to Annette Munich. What are you doing?
Hi, everybody. I'm sorry, I was kind of almost a little bit late.
I said to Carl in the green room before we went live, I said, you know, I just hope she's okay. Usually she's here by now. I just hope she's okay. But if she shows up late, it's no big deal. I see you. I can see you pop in the green room.
I
And
have to blame it on my dog. Well, he's not actually my dog. I'm his grandmother. But he had an issue when I was supposed to be sitting in the chair. So,
okay. Well, listen, look what I got on.
oh, do you love it?
I love it. I wanted to show everybody what it looks like on a man. Somebody mentioned to me the other day, are they just, or is it, for just men's bracelet or women's bracelet? I think it's unisex
I
because
purposely made it unisex, and I already sold another one to a man.
stretchy. They go on easy. They're sturdy. They go on easy. They're beautiful. They're comfortable. Sharon's looks just as good on her as mine looks on me. And I stole this from her when she wasn't looking. The one that you're giving away today, you
The
sent me one of
Christmas
those.
bracelet, yeah.
And those are beautiful too. Even though you sent that for Sharon, look how nice it looks on a man. It looks fine on a man.
Yeah,
So,
I thought they looked a little bit more girlish, but it doesn't have to be.
no, not at all.
But the Medjugorje bracelet, that's, stones and wood, and that looks very neutral, I think.
And which one are you giving away today? The blue one, or I'm sorry, the green one or the
The
brown one?
Christmas one.
Okay,
I'm so bad with the camera. The
very
Christmas
cool.
one.
So
This
let's
is,
let everybody know what to do. All they need to do is type in their name and the word bracelet.
they don't even have to type their name. I can see their name. All they have to
Okay,
do is type bracelet, and this is, I love this. Italian Millefiori glass beads. And um, if you look really close, they look like little old fashioned Christmas candies. Do you remember Christmas candies
I
like
do.
that?
I do.
Yeah.
I do.
So, and Millefiori means, Milla means thousand, and Fiori means flowers. So made out of 1,000 flowers. And we already got people for the bracelet. Hi, Infinite Joy. Hi, David. Hi, Michelle. They're
And don't
already typing.
forget, also in addition to the bracelet, we're still giving away blessed
We do
frankincense
have
incense.
blessed frankincense incense.
There's
Do you want to do?
10 there's 10 cones in each little box with its own with a little stand too. And I blessed all the incense you sent me. So if you're interested in the incense, put the word incense also in the chat. And you're going to do the drawing later after we're off the air, and then we'll
Yeah.
handle
Um,
reaching out to the person and trying to get their address.
right. And,
Very cool.
they can contact you or me, Annette.Munich@gmail. And now we got people for the incense. David's there. And I let it go until like midnight, Infinite Joy. And because if people have to work and they can't catch us live, I don't want to make it where they're not eligible for anything. I'm not going to be a Scrooge like that.
Very cool. Well, that's nice. That's nice of you.
Yeah,
Um, Before we bring on our very special guest, is there any other announcements you'd like to make?
I don't think so.
And I saw your post. Maybe we will get a chance. I'll tell
Right.
you what, it's funny how we have a cryptid or slash Sasquatch expert slash experiencer, elite squatcher on the
Oh,
show.
you did
But
say elite squatcher.
yeah,
Yes.
and here's the thing you talked about. Maybe we'll get a chance to talk about the drone phenomena
Right.
mystery on the East Coast,
Yeah.
all over the country, that is, and West Coast
Right.
too. And what's funny is let's just say it was aliens. It just fits in because I think everybody doesn't believe they're alien, but even if they were, that fits in with Bigfoot because so many people that have gone out searching for this elusive creature for many, many years have reported out in the middle of nowhere seeing UAPs during Sasquatch sightings, or at least out on these long treks to try and find this creature, seeing UFOs and UAPs. So it kind of fits. I'll make sure we fit it in there. But are you ready to bring this guy on?
I'm ready to bring this guy on.
Everybody that tuned in already knows him and loves him. Like I said, I'm surprised he's here today. He just had an operation.
Oh, yes.
I want to say week before last. He sent me pictures of himself in the hospital. I expected him to reschedule, but he's a trooper. He didn't want to miss today, and I'm glad. He's like I said, he is an elite squatcher. He's a Sasquatch experiencer and authority. He's been studying that Biggie for a long, long time. So without further ado, please give a big warm Paranormal Ministry family welcome to the one and only Karl Sup.
Carol,
Hey
I'm
everybody.
so glad you're here. Have you been in a lot of pain?
At times, yeah, it
Yeah.
comes and goes, but right now it's actually feeling pretty good. See, I can move it.
Let me ask
So,
you. I have to ask you. How does one? Why does one get a shoulder? I know many years ago before I met my wife, she was in a terrible car accident and it just destroyed her shoulder, and she had to get like a new shoulder pretty much put on. And rehab for that was brutal. Her shoulder's never been the same. I always have to remind if I'm gonna grab her by the shoulders or tap her or mess with her, I have to think before which shoulder it is so I don't do that to the wrong one even after all these years. I was hoping you were going to have a story like, well, I finally ran into a juvenile Sasquatch who pushed me into a tree and I threw my shoulder out.
oh,
I know it's probably not that, but what happened?
it's yeah, it's not quite as interesting as that, but I play competitive volleyball, and you know, be, before I kind of moved into fours sand, I played actually doubles sand professionally. So I was but I was playing in a match in fours, and I dove for a ball and dislocated my shoulder back in 2005. And the injury from that just basically ate away. You know, it got repaired, but at the time, but over time, the arthritis just ate away at everything on there. So it was
Wow.
time. It was time. But this arm's good. I'm good with, and this
Very,
is the
very
arm I hit
cool.
with too. So
Well, I'm going to let you. I do, like I showed you in the green room, I have one, two, three, four, five, six, half a dozen or so questions that fans and followers of yours sent in to me as soon as Annette sends me the promotional banner on a Monday and I put it out there. I already got people starting to send questions in for you. But I thought, because I always say I'm going to do it and I never do, shame on me. I am going to be quiet for a little bit and let Annette chat with you.
sure.
Oh, well, that's wonderful. I was going to ask, I don't know, maybe my questions are rudimentary. I hope they're not rudimentary. But, now they have a lot of talk in the south of like swamp apes and orange colored haired
Hmm.
um, Sasquatch, Bigfoot. So it looks like there's different types. Are there different types all over or different all over the country? Because up in Washington, Oregon, those look like very big, dark colored
Well,
creatures.
I know in Arizona they're kind of I want to say an auburn color,
Oh,
reddish brown hair. At least the ones I've seen. But the in Illinois, it was a darker blackish hair. Um, of course, my sightings were right well, I wouldn't say dusk, but towards the end of the day. So and it wasn't like the sightings I had in Arizona where they were backlit, so it was pretty obvious what color there was. But yeah, it's varying. There's a lot of people that have different sightings across the country, and there's different hair colors. In fact, the one I had in West Alton, Missouri, that that one was, I think, an older Sasquatch, and I think that because it was mottled, it was not unlike my beard and hair going here, right, with a little bit of you know gray and maybe dark gray or brown and gray, and it was. Uh, it was it was very different. So yes, I think that there's I wouldn't say different species, but certainly just like us, right? We're there's a little bit variation in all of us, and they're operating in the same method. So
Well, the first time that you were on the show, we were kind of talking in the green room beforehand, and we're both from Chicago originally,
mhm.
and we were talking about the stadium and the Blackhawks and stuff like that. And so now you said that you saw a Bigfoot up in Illinois, which I have not heard of that before.
Oh
Although I've
gosh,
heard of people seeing Mothman up in Illinois, and I immediately thought the dark-haired ones can take the cold weather, and the orange-haired ones can't.
yeah, it's possible. I mean, so I mean, I've had 3 sightings in Illinois,
Wow.
and you would be surprised where they were. They were basically between Elgin and Algonquin. So if you know
Okay.
that area,
Yep.
I won't give the specific area. As I turned that research area over to a different researcher, kind of when I stopped working actually
Well,
working for a living in that area.
for people that don't know, that's going north towards Wisconsin.
Yep, yep. And the reality is what they do is really use creek beds as a transit system. So a lot of them, they're forested or heavily vegetated, and they'll move back and forth. Not migration. I don't believe that. I know there are some people that buy into the fact that they do mass migration, but I know that in the research area I go to in Arizona, it's pretty much the same family units that are in that area every time I go up there, and they're very they know me, because I mean, even a lot of times I'll get there, I'll start setting up camp. I won't even do anything, just pull in, setting up camp, and all of a sudden, there's a whistle coming from the woods, and it's like, and I whistle back, and then they'll clack rocks or something, and and that's really what, I don't know. I want to say 10 years ago, I was looking to set up cameras and trick them, and get, and now I'm all about the interaction. I want to, this is the season of giving, right? And I really enjoy that interchange where they're, where maybe I can leave a gift for them, and they'll leave something for me. They've left fossils for me and rocks, and it's interesting. So
Yeah,
oh yeah,
that's a great honor, the
yeah,
gifting. And while we're on that topic, of migration, before we get to
yeah,
the gifting,
sure,
I'm 100% on board with you there. I don't think they migrate, but I do think they are so capable of traveling these long distances,
yeah, oh,
uh, and it's nothing to them whether for whatever reason they want to travel a couple of states away for a reason and they come back and they do it with relative ease and stealthiness
right,
and quickly. Um, what might take us a couple of weeks to travel, even by car, taking a highway or back roads, might only take them, a couple of days to do.
sure,
Um, so I'm agree with you on that. Now let's talk about the gifting. I did something um, a while ago. You sent me a picture of a very rudimentary um, flute, handmade flute out of wood
yep,
that you sent me. And now I took pictures of that you sent me, and I went and I spoke to an indigenous friend of mine because I know that he's told me many times there's a lot of Squatch on these Indian reservations because the government doesn't go on them and harass them, and they don't fear the Indians because the Indians aren't warlike with them. They accept them for what they are and that they're there, and they kind of coexist. Now, I showed him that, and he said he had seen items almost identical to that gifted to people in his tribe. And he's talked to other people in other tribes who've been gifted the same type of thing before. So if you've got it, do you have it handy?
I have it handy right here. So this is it.
Ah,
So if you can see the way the holes are kind of just carved out. I know it might be a little hard to see, but um, and on the back side, same thing there. You can see that's actually a little better to see the way that's been carved out. But it's and this came out of Illinois. Um, so this was I had this gifted in Illinois, and it is it's very interesting how the holes were cut. It's broken. There's a piece missing from one end and from both ends actually, but it's I can't imagine, and it's hollowed out. I don't know if you can see all the way down in there, but um, it's very. I was really stunned when I got it because I was just like, "Am I really seeing what I'm seeing?" I mean, that was So I documented where I found it, in the natural location I found it in. Though I'm pretty good at documenting, and I'm a lot more scientific when it comes to Sasquatch research. But and then I just saw an article on a Neanderthal site that archaeologists were digging in Europe, and it actually had they found a bone flute. And when you actually looked at the pictures of that bone flute, it was the holes for the fingering were almost identical to this, which is I found very interesting. So,
Do you think when you hear the whistling that it's actually whistling, or do you think maybe they might be using something like that to
no,
whistle?
yeah, when the whistles I've heard, you can hear the wind blowing over the lips. You can I can hear lips and the tongue, adjusting the sound. It's pretty obvious. Plus, it's pretty loud, So,
Yeah,
um,
very
yeah.
interesting. Yeah, I maybe after your shoulder gets better, and I can talk Sharon into it. Maybe one of these days I can travel down to you. Not that far
Oh, I'd
from
love
me in
that.
reality. You're in Arizona now?
Yep. Oh yeah. Yep.
You're just next door. I'm in Nevada. Maybe come down and I'll go out. I'm terrible. God, I haven't gone camping in forever. But I'd be willing to go out on a
Oh,
uh,
I
on a
would
journey
I,
with you.
I would love that, Sean. That would be great, and we'd probably have to, since the area I go to has no internet connection, and everybody's like, "Why don't you live stream from your?" And I'm like, "Okay, number one, that's not my intention. Is to do that. It's to understand and learn better. Not sit there with a camera in my face, but." Certainly we could do some filming there and then assemble it together into a little. Oh, thank you very much. Yes, Sylvania was where it was found. Yep.
Oh, very cool, very cool. I know this is going to sound.
Sean,
I don't know what.
um didn't you have an interesting experience in Illinois, in Southern Illinois, when you were there in March of this year, um, for your ordination?
That was weird. I don't even know if I told you about this, Carl. Had been
Oh, I
joking
hadn't heard
around
this.
as soon as I showed up at the retreat, which is Todd Hall Retreat Center in Illinois. It's out in the middle of nowhere. I was just joking around about how the place was unusually squatchier than I could have ever imagined it to be. I mean,
Squatcher.
you open up your back door and you open up the door to your room at the retreat and you know, could totally imagine, let your imagination get carried away with it and imagine a squatch living out there. You totally could imagine it. Everybody thought I was crazy and laughing. But I was having this discussion and talking about Sasquatch out there, not in my room with some other people. And if you were a squatch and sitting out there, you could hear me. I don't know if they can understand this or not. But I was talking about it, and I kid you not, the next day a tree that was big enough that I couldn't put my arms around, and it was huge. It was snapped off, and the top half was stuck upside down in the ground, and then the second part, the bottom part, was ripped out of the ground, turned upside down, and stuck back in the hole that it came out of, right in front of my cabin. Right in front of my cabin when I came out the
Wow.
next morning. And I just sat there for the longest time and stared at it like,
Well, I have an example here. I'll do one more gift here. This was in came out of actually Long Island, New York, but it is, I don't know if anybody's familiar with just like a Ready Mark marking
yep,
pen. They have an aluminum body to them, but it's pretty tough, right? It's a cylinder of aluminum. Well, anyway, Sasquatch had picked up this pen, and you can see the two fingers across there, and it crushed it. So you can see how flattened that is.
yeah.
There's not a scratch on it. It wasn't like it was run over or whacked with a rock or anything like that. It was it, and none of that. But like I said, you can see the two finger, where the fingers just
Yeah,
crushed
yeah,
it.
yeah.
And so if you want to, if you're
Those are
not quite a
strong like a,
believer,
those feel
go
like
out and buy
a
a Ready
pipe.
Mark pen and try it yourself, and you'll find
Yeah, you
out
can't do it. There's no way.
you can't do it.
No, they're like, it's like a lead pipe, those pens.
Yeah, exactly. So,
Unbelievable. But that made my whole trip. Everybody thought
oh,
I was crazy. I showed everybody at the retreat. You see these two. They acknowledged that that's pretty strange because no other tree, and these were big trees. That tree the night before wasn't like that. The following morning, it was like that, and no other tree around it was messed with at all. They at least acknowledged that um, it was odd, and I believe, you know, Sasquatch is one of God's creatures. I believe God created him. I do believe it's a creature of flesh and blood, but does have some type of supernatural
oh,
qualities and abilities. Um, obviously, what those
and that,
are, I think we'll find one day. Do you want to? I'm going to just put your feet to the fire here.
sure.
Tell us why. Well, I don't. If they don't want to um, associate with mankind, I don't blame them. Um,
Me neither.
I believe many aliens fly by this planet and have heard the rumors, and they lock their doors and they just keep flying by. Um, we're just cave people still, and I know I'm going to get hate mail for that, but that's what we are. I'm going to put your feet to the fire here, and let's talk about why you believe. That's an easy answer, but why is it so hard to prove their existence? Although I do believe the government knows that they're real.
No, they
Um,
do.
what do you think about this? And the dog man too. I just had a long discussion with a guy who feels the dog man is just a version of them. So I know I just dumped a lot on you, but go for it.
I was going to say, from a dog man, and now I've never had a dog man experience. I have a lot of fellow researchers that I respect have sightings and believe, and the it's a different footprint, from the dog men. But so like I said, even though I haven't actually seen one where, where I could point, say, okay, now I believe, right? I take it on faith that, that they exist only because people I trust have had those sightings. But from a physical aspect, they're bipedal for the most part. They'll go on to fours just like a Bigfoot will at times. And but from the physical size and structure, yeah, they're the two of them are very similar but different, right? So if you wanted to talk about, Annette, if you want to talk about different species, that I can see that, right, with that. As far as your paranormal aspect to them, a lot of people call that the woo, right? And I, the jury was out. Same thing. I had people that I respected very much that, had woo experiences, and I was like, wow, that's interesting. But in my mind, I'm like, okay, I'm going to have to, find out for myself, or, to have a better understanding of that. But, I had, until I had one of those experiences, and then I went, wow, I mean, I was trying to do research into an area that had been flooded. This was actually south of Alton, Illinois, and I couldn't get into those woods because the access roads going in there had been flooded by the Mississippi, and so I just parked on the road, and I got out, and I was about to do a call, a knock, just to see if I could get a response out of those woods. And then I thought to myself, well, this is probably a good opportunity to try this out, right? So I just stood there and I thought to myself, right? I didn't speak it out. I got out of the car, total silence, walked to the front of the car, stood there, faced the woods, and I just thought to myself, if you're in these woods, could you knock for me? And about 5 minutes went past, and out of that woods came a big crack.
What?
Now, could it have been a tree falling down? That was a real big coincidence. Not only that, but right before the crack, I could hear something wading around in the woods, in the water. So, and then it stopped, and then the tree cracked. So, it's things like that. Or even at my cousin's farm in Southern Illinois, I was walking from one of their cabins to the main house, and their property is totally wooded, and there's bluffs and everything on the property, and caves and so forth. And I totally still morning, beautiful morning, and I stopped on the trail going from the cabin to the house, and I looked up at the bluff, and I thought to myself, I wonder if they're up there watching me right now. It wasn't even, I want to say, 3 seconds. One solitary tree up there on the bluff shakes. Just one tree just does this, and then it stops. All the other trees around it, nothing. And so I laughed, and I went, thanks. Thanks for looking out for me.
It could have been Paul Newman shaking the tree here, boss, shaking the tree.
Yeah. So.
Oh man, you know what?
I'm learning a lot from you guys today, because I had seen some stories with the Bigfoot sightings where they have the trees pulled up and upside down. That's a really good sign. That's pretty impressive. That's hard to do.
That's very impressive. Right. Now, my question is, did you get photos of it?
I had my phone with me. You know what? I'm like you. That's not in my mind. The evidence. You would think I'm more evidence oriented when it comes to that stuff, and I just wasn't. I actually prayed when that happened. I thanked whatever this was for giving me a sign, and I wished it peace and and health, and I thank God for letting me experience that.
Oh yeah, that was a complete sign that was meant for you.
That was
in my opinion.
And now what I learned is, and I saw another show where people go into wooded areas and they take a big thick stick and bang it against a tree trunk, and then they wait and they get answered. So this is what I've learned so far. under chapter 1, be careful what you wish for. Don't think
Yeah.
about Bigfoot in the wilderness. Don't click any rocks together in the wilderness. Don't
Oh.
talk aloud about Bigfoot in the wilderness. And don't click any trees with any sticks in the wilderness. Because I don't know what I would do if I saw one. I mean, I really do believe that they're there. I didn't think they were in Illinois. I think Washington, Oregon, okay. Swamp apes somewhere in the swamps in the South, okay. But I didn't think in Illinois.
Oh yeah, they're
Here's
actually,
another weird theory
Illinois has a
I'm
lot
going
of
to
them.
throw at you.
Sure.
Favorite food. We've talked about how guys have taken large jars full of peanut butter and they leave it out there, and something grabs the peanut butter canister like with your pen and squeezes the you know what out of it, and then reaches in with the other hand and scoops out enough peanut butter and then discards the coffee can, and that's what they have for evidence. Um, but I have a friend I've known for 40 years. He moved out here. He moved to America from Yugoslavia. He had never eaten pizza before in his life. And one of the first things arriving in New York with his mother was he went to a pizza parlor and he had pizza. Well, by the time he thought it was the most delicious thing he'd ever eaten in his life. But by the time he hit the front door and got on the sidewalk, he spent minutes throwing his guts up. I know that's
Oh.
TMI, but his system wasn't ready for that
Right.
because all his life he'd never eaten that before. And ever since then, it left some type of psychological scar. And to this day, he won't eat pizza. Sasquatch is not into barbecue because they don't know how to barbecue. They kill deer and they eat them raw. Maybe they get in bear fights. I would think the bears and other things out there avoid them like the plague. But
I'm
so
sure
it's
they
just
like peanut butter because everybody likes peanut butter.
I do I do
But
too. I have too much.
I love peanut butter. But I heard the Sasquatch favorite food of all time is blueberries.
Huh.
Huh.
Well, yeah, berries. Yeah.
I've never tried blueberries. I've gifted apples a lot. They love apples. I've gifted pancakes, especially if it has syrup on it. The syrup seems to be definitely loved. Pound cake. In fact, the pound cake was interesting. I left it out in the camp kitchen in order to just test it, but I wrapped the pound cake in aluminum foil. So it was on the table, but folded up with aluminum foil. Well, and that's about as hard as I can get my left arm up right now. But when when it came out, if it was a raccoon or a crow or something like that, right, they would have just pecked or torn apart the aluminum foil. They actually unwrapped the aluminum foil, ate the pound cake, and left the foil flattened.
Well, I was
without
thinking about the
tearing it.
pancake thing with the syrup. I'd like to be a fly on the cave wall with the mother complaining to the father Sasquatch why Junior's bouncing off the cave walls, and he has to explain to the wife that Carl gave him a pancake full of syrup. Um, so what do you think? Why? Let's talk about the dangers because
Okay,
now
sure.
we've joked a lot about them. Let's talk about the dangers. I think of that famous story, the Great Sasquatch Choctaw War of 1855 in Oklahoma, where apparently these three Sasquatches were nearby and they were stealing all the livestock. And then some Choctaw warriors rode out there and they tell a story of battling these three creatures. There were some deaths involved. Of course, this creature could be very dangerous, but I think I think the reason why, and you've experienced this, you are tracking a Sasquatch over here who is somewhat kind of making it known I'm over here, come find me. And I think it's a distraction technique to keep you from finding the juvenile and the mother that's hiding in a ditch over here. Also, I think they don't want to confront us any longer because usually we can go get a lot of help. And
Right.
I think that there's not very many of them. So to a certain degree, they're fearful of us, even though they know they could, you know, we're no match for them.
Right.
But I think there's real dangers there. I talked to my indigenous friends that say the infrasound thing. They don't know if it's infrasound, but they can be right in front of you and make you not see them. That's what my indigenous friend tells me.
Yeah, the
Um,
infrasound, I'm not sure would. I mean, it could affect you because those very low frequency waves that infrasound is, it definitely disrupts water, right? And we are mainly water if we get distilled down enough. But those that I've been hit with infrasound twice, and I actually got it recorded once, and in actually going back and taking off of another tape. This one came from the Oklahoma Texas border. I took that audio of actually a Sasquatch talking, and there was a second one that was generating infrasound. Well, I didn't know that, right? I was just working on the audio tape to clear up that infrasound from, of the talking. I wanted to make sure I dropped out the crickets and everything that were going on so you could hear them clearly. And I was working on that audio, and the more I listened to it, I just felt horrible. I thought I was going to pass out, and and that was my first experience with infrasound. Well, when I later on went back and looked at the frequency waves in that audio, I realized that there was something between 14 and 18 hertz that seemed to be modulating. So I took that, I bumped it up so it was in an audible range, and to me it sounded more like something like a didgeridoo, right? So it was very just kind of like a wow, 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 wow. And I don't know if that is, but I couldn't hear it on the tape, in its natural state. The same way when in the live times that I've been hit with infrasound out in the woods, I couldn't hear it at all. The one maybe dropped to my knees. I thought I was going to throw up and just pass out right on the ground. And I actually choked out the words, I'm a friend. And instantly it stopped. I felt
well,
better.
I love your comment about you were just thinking, make a noise, and it did. And I've got a couple of friends. One, I won't call them out because I don't have, they don't expect me to be talking about them unless they know. But they are passionate about this topic. They're gifted psychic mediums, and they've gone out and they've psychically contacted these creatures, or they claim. And again, these are people I trust and believe. So I do believe they've got that psychic gifts too. But I've told you the story about the military vet who was homeless here, and all those tunnels we have under Vegas. And there's areas of the tunnels where people that have lived down there for a long time won't go, and they tell stories about how people just disappear. And I had that friend who was a retired forest ranger up in the north Midwest, up in all of 40 years retired, spent many weeks isolation in those towers with those high powered binoculars looking for forest fires, let's say, and other stuff. But they were having a rash of campers missing from campsites, and they said when they would send out search parties, they would talk amongst themselves and say, we can't tell the public this, but they clearly were tracking something that wasn't a bear or a cougar that drug these people away from these campsites. So what do
Right.
you think about the dangers of some of these rogue rogue Squatch that maybe find us quite a delicacy, and maybe the abductions are because um, they're eating us.
It, well, it's very interesting. I know, well, especially in Nevada, there the Paiutes had just similar to what you were talking about, the Choctaws um, having a battle. The Paiutes were very, I want to say, harassed by a tribe of giant red-haired men, at least from their, and those creatures would raid their camps or their homes and steal children, or take people and eat them. All right, so uh, and finally they kind of fought back. They went up to they tracked one of them to a cave, which is called Lovelock Cave in Nevada. It's still there. You can look it up. And they blocked the entrance to that cave, which of course had, bat guano in it and so forth. And that fire that they set at the entrance to the cave in order to try to kill the red-haired giants, ignited the bat guano, and and the giants, or many of the giants, were killed. So that's in Paiute legend, and of course, in the 1930s, I believe, they did an excavation of the area in and around Lovelock, and they found giant skulls that where the lower jaw of the skull could actually fit over the top of ours. So, it you can. So anyway, yes, I think that they're. I'll put it this way: when I was in the woods, the second sighting that I had was daytime. The first one I had was at nighttime with night vision. It was 30 feet away. I will tell you, I was a little nervous because it was dark, and if I couldn't see it, it started, you start getting bad thoughts, right? Like, oh my God, like, where is it? And what am I, what's going to happen? The one I saw during the day, it moved so incredibly fast. I mean, it went from 0 to 30 miles an hour running in a second. I mean, it was just the burst of speed it had, and the size, and and how smoothly it ran. When I saw that, I said, you know what, they could take us anytime they wanted to in the woods, but they don't, or at least they don't. At least they've never taken me. So, and I think that it's in a relationship. I think they feel that as long as they understand, or maybe going back to woo a little bit, but I think that they certainly understand our intentions. I think when we get out in the woods, I know there's a few groups that they're like, we're gonna go kill one, and we're gonna, and then they're like, oh my God, we're getting rocks thrown at us, and we're getting branches thrown at us, and logs, and and it's like, I mean,
I
if
love the
somebody came
stories you hear by some hunters who say they've actually caught them in the crosshairs of their hunting rifles, and they're just about to pull the trigger, and they're having these delusions of grandeur on how famous they're going to be because they're going to bring this dead body of a Sasquatch home. And when the thing looks at them in their scope, and they take, you know, those few seconds it takes before you pull the trigger, you're getting a bead on this thing. Something that says happens to them, and it's just they just can't pull the trigger because they just look that much like a human, but not
exactly
us. But they're just
right.
so alike us that they just can't bring themselves to pulling the trigger. I find that
Yep.
interesting too. Do you think we're ever going to actually? This will be my last question, and then I'll give Annette a chance to chat with you for a few minutes before we got to kick you out of here. But do you think the day is on the calendar? We don't know what day that is, but do you think the day is on the calendar where it'll actually be proven to the masses that these things do exist.
Well, I think the way it's going to happen isn't going to be like, oh look, I was hiking in the woods, or whatever, a tree fell over and disrupted a Bigfoot grave somewhere in the woods, and I found a skeleton, right? And that person then calls the sheriff's department, right? And pretty soon, the sheriff's department, the government, Smithsonian, whatever, shows up, says, "Oh, thank you very much. We're gonna, study this," and you never hear from it again, right? And this, we can go back to newspaper articles from the last 150 years of farmers uncovering graves of giants across America, and other places in the world. I mean, there's certainly almost every continent, I think, has a story, including South America. And the I think what it's going to take is a person that makes that discovery, but instead of making it public or trying to get maximum dollars out of it or whatever, they go and privately get it studied themselves and then make it public. And I don't know if that is currently underway or not, but certainly I think that's the way it's going to happen. I know the government knows, and they're
With
not
all
going
the
to tell
crazy
it. They're
things
not
that
gonna
the
say.
government is willing to pay for people
Right.
to study, why are they not studying Bigfoot? I would think that that's legitimate to, make a team and get a study going. And, I'm just saying, with all the crazy things that they actually do study. And, that kind of makes me jump to this, if it's drones, if it's UFO, UAP situation. And the government said, don't have to be afraid. But they never tell us the truth about UFOs anyway. They never have. We all know that. We all know that they're, whatever that they're saying, they either don't know, don't have a clue, or they know and they're not going to tell us. Oh, so pick whichever you want it to be.
Yeah, I think we're going to know more about UFOs maybe in before 2030 than we will about Bigfoot, at least from admissions from government agencies. But and as far as your drones, since some of those actually flew over restricted airspace at air bases and stuff,
Yeah.
And Homeland Security saying, oh, it's nothing, it's nothing,
It's
don't
nothing.
worry about it.
Don't worry about it.
It's got to be the government. It's got to be the government, even though they're not admitting what that is. But that doesn't make me feel any better either. So
No. No, but this is like, I guess they've seen hundreds, and it started in November, and they're as big as SUVs, and they're saying they can fly low and be a little under the radar.
Yep. Well, that's supposed to have a 400-foot for drone flights, but some of these are not flying in 400 foot, but a lot of them are. But it's very unusual. And although they were, there was a notice that came out apparently that said, "Don't shoot them down, don't shoot them," and it's like, why would the government say don't shoot them, right? Of course, they probably don't want anybody just blasting away to the skies, right?
I saw one explanation, which is that we don't know how they're powered. So if we shoot them, A, we could make them explode, and B, maybe they fall on somebody's house or some building and hurt people. But it's gotten to be like very much the big story, and a lot of people wanting to get to the bottom of it. But I'm just so like, I never think, just because of all this time, they never said, when I say they, the government never really said anything about, if you don't believe in UFOs, then you just don't want to at this point. You just, I mean, there's so many stories. And now, since the advent of phones in your pockets and video cameras in your pockets, there's so much to look at out there. So, there's a lot of people waiting for disclosure. And that's like, I don't know if they'll. I think sometimes you wait so long to say something that now you just look stupid if you finally say.
Yep.
But this is interesting because there's people saying that they're seeing them come out of the ocean.
Yeah. That I mean, I don't know if they've come out of the ocean or maybe they are traveling over the ocean. They just kind of lost them on the horizon, and then they just kind of end up rising out of that. It's it's something to think about. I'm not trying to say that they didn't, right? I'm just saying there could be an explanation for that, but and that's the way I think. I'm like I said, literally, like even when if I was in your situation, Shawn, I would have gone down probably to where those trees were uprooted and rammed into the ground, and I would have measured. I would have looked at the depth of the plunge, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I would, because trying to say, okay, what could have happened? Are there any other trees nearby that happened? Whatever. I would have just kind of documented all of that because that's the way I am, just I'm going to eliminate, what the likely, and then I'm left with the impossible, right? So,
Well, since Bigfoot can read your thoughts, you can go out into the woods and you could ask Bigfoot to hit the tree one time if the drones are aliens, or
well, I
two
don't know if they
times.
know what. I don't
I'm
know
gonna
if they
have
know
to.
what that
I'm gonna
is or
have to
not.
kick you out of here, brother, before we get cut off. Okay.
Yeah.
I love you, respect you. I hope your shoulder heals up quickly, and I'll throw some dates at you after the show because I want to get
Perfect.
you back. I want to get you back after you go back out on your first Squatch hunt.
That'll
After your
be
shoulder gets
May
better.
next year. Yeah, probably
Ooh.
May next year,
Well,
unless
I'll
I go
still
to my
have you
desert
back before
areas.
then, and we'll talk.
Oh
But
yeah.
listen, brother,
Yep.
take care. Have a great remainder of your Friday, and so wonderful having you here. I'm glad to see you. You're doing better, and I'll talk to you very, very soon. Okay.
All right. Sounds
Thanks,
great.
Carl. I had a great
All right.
time. Feel better soon.
Right. Thank
See
you
you later,
very much.
brother.
Merry Christmas.
Merry
Merry
Christmas.
Christmas, brother. Karl Sup. That time flew by. I'm not going to be able to do the mail bag or the prayer urn today, but that's okay. I've been in the bag and the urn all morning. I've said a lot of prayers for people. We have next Friday the 20th. We have Channel. She's a channeler. She's also a Ouijaologist and a spiritologist. Karen A. Dahlman will be here next Friday. So, anything else you want to say to anybody before I kick you out of here?
I'll just remind them that up until midnight, if they watch the show, they can leave a comment and type in bracelet or type in incense, and we'll do that drawing. But a marvelous show. I had a great time.
I love you. I'll see you later.
Have a great weekend, everyone. Thank you for listening.
Bye bye. Annette Munich. Before I get cut off here, don't go anywhere, guys. Spirit Switchboard with Carrie Lynn Shellhorns coming up. And thank you again to United Public Radio Network, 107.7 FM New Orleans, for carrying my show. God bless Joe. God bless Michelle DeRoche. Sponsors, if you want to be a sponsor of the show, reach out to uprntalkradio.com. Tell them you want to be on Father Shawn's show. And remember, we may have done what the devil said we did, but we are not who the devil says we are. Good night, Danny. Good night, Jack. Good night, Dog. Good night, Harold. Rest in peace. Good night, Ernie. Good night, Bill. Good night, Dan. I love you all. God bless you all in the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Peace.